D23 gave us the first officially released trailer for Tales of the Jedi, which comes out on Disney Plus on October 26th. All 6 episodes will come out on that day, 3 about Ahsoka and 3 about Count Dooku. So let's look through the trailer and break it all down, and I want to point out that there have been leaks about this series floating around online. I haven't looked into them and I won't be discussing them, I'm just speculating on the trailer. Please don't post spoilers in the comments. Let's start with Dooku because those are easily the episodes I'm most excited to dive into. Every time I watch the prequels, it shocks me how little the character is actually in them. Obviously he's in the Clone Wars a ton, but Christopher Lee makes such a huge impression with so little screen time. And I can't wait to dive into more of his story when he was a Jedi. We've already explored some of Dooku's disillusionment with the Order in stories like Dooku Jedi Lost and Master and Apprentice, but it'll be fun to get even more insight on screen at what looks like 3 separate stages of his life. We can see 3 distinct character models, one beardless with Qui-Gon Jinn, one with a dark beard with Mace Windu, and one with some graying hairs with Yaddle. I think I'm most excited to see his interactions with Qui-Gon, a character widely regarded as one of the best Jedi in the fandom. How did his master's struggle with darkness shape him into the man he became? It looks like they're sent to handle some planetary government dispute, some official-looking soldiers appear to be harassing the people that live there, and Dooku stands with them. Probably a noble cause, but then Dooku looks like he's pushing for confrontation. He pulls out his weapon, he starts force-choking people. I think we'll probably see a story that could have ended diplomatically, but Dooku causes violence. But it might be forgivable, so to speak, because he is technically on the right side of the fight. The next Dooku story is when he's paired up with Mace Windu. This time, they're fighting some droids and some other soldiers that look like they might be part of the same organization as those Dooku fights with Qui-Gon. Blue armor with gold accents, but an updated design years later, maybe? Again, Dooku takes things too far to the point where Mace has to tell him to stand down. Maybe at this point the soldiers are actually on the side of good, but Dooku doesn't trust them or something? I guess I'm imagining 3 stories where we see Dooku getting progressively worse, like Breaking Bad. At the start of Breaking Bad, we're on Walt's side and we can see his perspective, but he goes further and further along that path until it's impossible to root for him anymore. Dooku's last tale looks like it's a fight with Yaddle and... oh man, I wanted to see Yaddle again. I love seeing her pop up in stories, but not like this. I have to imagine Dooku winds up killing her in their duel, and that will, of course, be Dooku doing something that goes way too far. It's interesting that he still hasn't bled his lightsaber at this point. It's still blue while they fight, so I think Dooku still considers himself to be a Jedi at this moment. This might be the tipping point where he decides he has to become a Sith, kind of like after Anakin helped kill Mace Windu. I'd love to see him turn his lightsaber red on screen. But let's move on to Ahsoka. On one hand, I personally would have preferred to see almost any other character get the focus in this series. Dooku was a perfect choice. We've had tons of Ahsoka stories, but from a marketing perspective, I get it. Many fans met Ahsoka for the first time in The Mandalorian. She's new to them, so telling some of her stories here is a good way to get some interest from Star Wars fans who may have never watched The Clone Wars or any other animated project. And then, assuming there's a season 2, we can jump over to some lesser-known Jedi. But Ahsoka is happening, so let's dive in. I was lucky enough to see her first episode at Star Wars Celebration. It's about baby Ahsoka and her parents and her village, and it's basically the story of how they all realize she is Force-sensitive. You can see in the trailer that she is confronted by a massive saber-toothed beast, and she is able to calm it down. At the panel, Dave Filoni posed the question, is she using the Force or is she simply not afraid? And really, aren't those two ideas exactly the same thing? It was a good story. Her second tale seems to be a training session with Anakin and the clones, and it would appear Anakin is teaching her some moves that she will wind up using to survive Order 66. I think it will end with a flash forward to Ahsoka's presence at Padmé's funeral, and finally, we see her facing off with an Inquisitor. I've seen some speculation that this could be a retelling of part of the Ahsoka novel. I think that's possible, and kind of like wanting to see Dooku bleeding his lightsaber, I think it would be awesome to see Ahsoka purify the Inquisitor's crystals into her white lightsabers. Actually, that would be an excellent parallel to both sets of stories. Dooku's ends with him bleeding a lightsaber, Ahsoka's ends with her healing one. If that's all the case, I think there's a worry of some retconning happening, but I'm not too concerned about it. I'm getting used to it at this point, and if the story is slightly different, just remember it's all mythology. Mythological tales differed depending on who was telling the story. The same is true here. Listen to both versions and then seek the truth or canon of it for yourself. One last thing I want to point out is the presence of Bail Organa. I'm gonna guess he is part of Ahsoka's story because they meet up in the Ahsoka novel and she starts working for him as Fulcrum. That would tie nicely into Star Wars Rebels. But that's it for the Tales of the Jedi trailer. It's an interesting looking project. Hopefully it does well because I wouldn't mind seeing more tales about lesser known Jedi in the future. Maybe Tar Vizsla, that would be my main pick. Finn would be great too, since The Rise of Skywalker never dove into that, and I'd like to see his Force sensitivity explored outside of the LEGO specials. What Jedi do you want to see in future seasons? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our Tales of the Jedi coverage, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.